And you have surrounded yourself around John C. Maxwell, Will Guidara, and it's like these people that are in your life. How did you make those kinds of relationships? How did you find mentors that were great thought leaders? Not just somebody who was a high achiever, but like super exceptional. How did you make those relationships? And what would you say for people looking and listening to your story? Like, how do I meet people like that who can really lift me up?
You mentioned, John, how did that come about? I was looking for a mentor. And kind of searched for a while and reached out to a few people and I knew I wanted to grow as a person, as a leader. And there was a program that the John Maxwell Company provided. And so my wife and I signed up for it. That's how the relationship started. And it just got in the room.
Most people think influence comes from titles, platforms, or connections. But real influence starts when you're willing to tell the truth about who you are and the things you've been hiding. Today's guest is Tyler Dickerhoof, an impact-driven leader, speaker, and author whose journey has been from a dairy farm to entrepreneurial success. In this conversation, Tyler shares what it takes to build real influence and how confronting the things we hide can shape how we lead and connect with others. This conversation is for anyone trying to understand themselves better and show up more fully in their life through self-reflection. Tyler, thank you so much for being here. Seriously.
I'm excited to have this conversation. One, the tables have turned a little bit, but I also just excited to see your craft, how you do it, and learn from you.
I should put on my witch hat or something like that.
Do whatever, yeah.
Stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, let me ask you, is it more interesting for you to be in the hot seat or in the keynote speech or the podcast host yourself? Because you do that. You do both of those things. What's more interesting to you, or what's harder?
Man, that's an interesting question. It's interesting because I've learned from one of my mentors, like this idea that, you're nervous. I started a long time ago speaking. I started speaking when I was like probably 7 or 8 years old. I was in 4-H and we did different contests. And I started speaking. It was very much extemporaneous. So I went through grade school, high school, college doing extemporaneous speaking. So it's very like that function of it is natural to me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't faze me to be in front of a room. And what I've learned, though, is you're most comfortable when you know your content.
Oh, I love that. And I 100% agree because when people ask me, like, when you speak, are you nervous? And it's like, only if you don't know the content.
Yeah.
Because if we could talk about our kids for 24 hours, no problem. But when you don't know if you're talking about crepuscular animals or hydroponic farms, I'm not going to be able to talk for an hour. Yeah. I agree with that.
I learned that from John Maxwell.
Okay.
And John, kind of this idea of, man, if you know the content, just speak from the heart. And I think from a leadership, from a life perspective, that is so important. If you don't know it, don't speak about it. And if you don't know it, then just be curious and ask questions and be willing to learn. And so kind of this podcast, this idea, like you read my book, right? You prepared for this. I make sure that I read your book before it was on the podcast. The number of times, over 300 episodes recorded.
That's awesome.
That
By the way,
people
congratulations.
will be like, oh, you read my book? I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I prepare, have good knowledge,
100%.
have an idea of what to have a conversation about? And so it's no different speaking in front of people. It's like, are you prepared enough to be willing to serve the audience? Or are you performing for yourself? Because that's a whole different. You and I talked a little bit about this on your podcast, and you brought up some great things to me for one of your mentors sharing, hey, understand and you'll have to correct me because it's not top of mind right now, the different functions of a keynote speaker. And one of them, kind of connect to the audience. There's a performance element. You hit all of these emotional things, right?
Sure, an overall arc.
You talk about, doing gymnastics routine,
I'm not a gymnast.
No, but like when I'm saying backflips, doing something on stage, I'm not doing that. But what I can do is one of the things that I learned that I learned in college was to pause, use my voice, inflect up and down. I was told by a coach in college to listen to Paul Harvey, the old classic Paul Harvey radio show, in just his inflection.
Well, it does. Pause. It makes the audience lean in, right? And you can hit home with so much more emotion within a story, or get the attention of people. One of my favorite things is when you're looking out in the audience and somebody's on their phone, and you can call them out. And you're like, hey, do you understand? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, then it's like, oh my gosh, he actually saw me. Well, yeah, because you are paying attention. I can see everybody, right?
Yeah.
I might be the only one pretending I'm naked on stage, but I see you on the phone.
And I think part of that is understanding, like somebody asked me, it's like, well, how do you get up in front of all those people? Like, one, there's so many lights you usually can't see people. Number two is you just look for the person that's smiling. The hardest person to speak in front of, the hardest person in my life to ever speak in front of, this is going back to my speaking career, competing, is one person, because there's nowhere to hide. And if you're trying to speak, if I'm here and I'm doing a persuasive speech, and say it's a 90-second persuasive speech, right?
Sure, like a
half,
pitch.
2 minutes. Yep. And you're like, essentially your eyes are grilling me.
Yeah.
That's the hardest speech I will ever do in my life. Give me a 90-minute in front of 80,000 people. If I know the content and I'm there to connect and serve the audience, I don't see 89,920 of them.
I
see
that,
maybe 80. It's like, oh, you just have a conversation with them.
And okay, so now let me press you on that. Do you, when you are speaking, do you work the room and find the next person to smile at? Do you change the person? Because as a speaker, you don't want to just look at that one person the whole time. There are 89,000 other people.
Yeah. I think that's, whether you are trained to do it or become comfortable doing it, it's you're just having a conversation with people.
Yeah.
And the more relatable you can make that, my belief is that makes you more impactful. And again, am I an expert? No, I'm not, but I'm working at it. And those are things when I look to my mentors, when I look to people that I want to emulate, that they do so well, is they're not there to perform. They're there to serve. Now, there could be a capacity of entertainment, those things.
Sure.
Yeah, you
More
got to be
memorable.
funny. Yeah,
Right.
or just engaging, keeping people in. It can't be so heavy. And a lot of the things that I speak about are heavy. And so it's making sure that, I'm cracking jokes about myself, because that's the best person to joke about.
Sure.
And it's keeping it light and keeping it enjoyable, but also reflective, because the work that I speak about takes a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
Because that's what transformed me.
But then that's also where your pause helps, right?
Yeah.
Like it digs into the audience member, and they're able to like take it in, and they're like, oh, how is that going to apply to my life? And I love that.
There's nothing worse than, and you've seen this, you've probably, maybe we've done this, and I can do this at times. I can speak a little too fast, too much. And you get done, you're at a, keynote, right? 60-minute, and you're like
13 minutes in and you're done.
Well, or it's just you're exhausted. Like they're going so fast, you're like, Blue, hey, just take a breath. Just whoa, let me catch up. Let me catch up. And I think that's a life thing, right? That's a life thing from a parenting, from a leadership, is you already know, and you're trying to take everything with you. It's something I learned from cows. Okay. Grew up on a dairy farm.
Speaking of, really quick, let's hit 4-H, because as I was reading your book, my daughter did 4-H and she did lambs. And so I was like, and with her best friend Riker, and I was like, okay, so what was your 4-H? I'm assuming it's a cow because
So again, growing up on a dairy farm, I started showing cows when I was probably 5.
Okay.
And so it was just part of it, like family, what we got to do. Then into 4-H, I had a few other projects. I think I had some pigs at times, but mostly cows. And the growing up on a farm and this idea of being around it, right? And doing the work, but it's also, part of that lesson of doing that youth work is also an agency of, I have to do it on my own.
Yes.
My parents couldn't do it all. I had to do it on my own. And I think when you start to embrace that,
right?
When you start to embrace that in life, man, that makes you more powerful and realize that, hey, I'm not the victim of other people around me. I'm the victim of my own circumstances, how I react to it. But then coming back to this idea of, speaking and growing and having that, I would say, slow down enough that people can go with you is a learning lesson that, it's not all about what I can do. It's how I can go with people. So for example, coming back to the idea of showing cows in 4-H, there's this idea, you're young, I'll just drag them to wherever they want to go. Well, they're small enough you can get away with that, right? A lamb, your daughter could drag a lamb to a certain extent if she's big enough. Now, the lamb's bigger than her, it's not going to work.
It's hard.
And so it's building trust to say, hey, I'm going to take you someplace, but do you trust me enough? I'm going to take you there. And it goes a whole lot easier. The same with people. right? And it took me years of getting over that. It's like, oh, if I just slow down and build trust and allow them to go where I want to go, do the things of be around them so they are comfortable with me, they'll go over where I want to go. But if I come in and say, Blue, this is what we're doing today, and hammer you, you're like,
conflict, and I'm going to resist it.
Do I trust you?
Right, 100%.
Do I believe that you have my best interests at hand, or is it we've talked some about sports. Is it this is my way or the highway, as opposed to I need to build trust before I ever lead anyone anywhere?
Well, I love that you bring that up, because in your book you actually mentioned that the two bulls or oxen are moving and they're connected together. And it's like if the stronger one is moving, you're going to strangle the other one, and vice versa. You're going to slow down. And it's like, is that you had talked earlier about making analogies in life and within business, and you've naturally done that. Is that something that still resonates with you?
Oh, I mean, I used that image, and that came to me when thinking about empathy, right? And you read the classic books, the Brené Browns to, whoever else. And it's like, see it through someone else's eyes. Well, unless I take your eyes and put them on my head, I can't do that, right? It's just not physical possible. Oh, put yourself in their shoes. Like, all right, I wear a size 13. Maybe you do too. If I put my feet in your shoes, they might fit, they might not. If they're a size 10, it's going to hurt. Or if we try to put both feet in the same shoes, it's really not going to work. But what can I do? I can come alongside you. I can put my arm around you, and that takes extension of my arm. That takes vulnerability. It takes an action. But then the other piece of it, kind of this oxen mentality, is if I put my arm around you and drag you, it's not going to go well. If I put my arm around you, you drag me, it's not going to go well. But if I put my arm around you, there's no limitation to how fast and how far we can go. It's kind of like the same with I didn't run track. I was super slow, but the passing the relay race and passing the baton. And like, it's most effective when both runners are running at the same speed. That's when passing the baton is effective. Empathy, leadership, relationships is the same thing. If I'm going faster than you and I just throw it at you, maybe you catch it. Maybe it falls on the ground.
So one of the things that you talk about and who you work with are entrepreneurs and leaders.
Yeah.
So translate that into a CEO or a C-level person trying to connect with their managers or their lower level groups. And it's like, how can they bring them along? And you have this vision, like you just discussed about having a keynote speech. Like, you know where you're going. The audience has no clue, right? You know, as the CEO, like you have this vision. How do you bring them along? And you don't drown them or you don't suffocate them, but you bring them along. How do you do that? And what do you tell leaders to do?
One of the great lessons that I learned years and years ago was about communicating a vision. And it was a book by Michael Hyatt called The Vision Driven Leader. And in that,
you're all serious about this shit. Vision, mission. Boom. Okay. You enjoyed this book.
Oh yeah, it was great because it finally gave me an idea of like, because you hear mission and vision, we're going to throw up our values on the wall, right? Corporations do that all the time. Mostly it's to, check a box rubber stamp. It's not that they really understand the actual value.
Or they believe it.
Totally.
Okay.
And so one of the things that he goes through is a mission is just a one line, this is what we're here to do. Blue, your mission with the podcast is to do a podcast, create content, whatever. It's one line. Now, what does it look like? That's the vision. Well, hey, we're going to have a studio. It's going to be soundproof. We're going to have a great conversation and experience. It's going to be engaging. We're going to have this relationship. We're going to develop this relationship not only with us, but with the listeners so they can grow and impart from the wisdom of the speaker, right?
Sure.
That's
or
part
the
of
leader,
a vision.
right?
And so one of the things that I learned from that is expressing a vision is like, hey, okay, great Star Wars guy, right? If you tell me you're going to invite me to a special showing of a Star Wars movie, it doesn't matter which one. How are you going to describe that to me? Are you going to say, hey, Tyler, come to this Star Wars movie with me? And if you're like, if I'm an aficionado, I know everything about it, great. But if it's like, I've never heard of Star Wars, I've never gone to one. Are you going to say, hey, come to the Star Wars movie with me? Or are you going to
paint a picture?
Of
that.
Absolutely. And so I believe a corporation's vision is much like that. Make it a full-length movie. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be the scene. This is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to feel like. Painting that picture. I didn't come up with that. That's what I learned from Michael. And that idea. And here's the other layer between the mission and the vision. If your values are not explicitly expressed in those two, then it's not a corporate value. It's not at all. And so how does a leader start? You got to understand that first. Your vision has to be painting a picture with the values of what's important to you and where are you going. Why is it, if I'm the leader and you're a part of this, if like you invite me to be your on this podcast and you're telling me about it, how do I fit into it? It has to be a part of it. And that's where leaders, again, you try to influence is like, well, if I can't see my place in the movie, well, I'm not going to go be a part of it.
Absolutely.
But if I can see where my place in the movie, and then you say, hey, you know, if I'm saying to you, Blue, I need you to do, there is this role for you. It's a guy who's transformed through martial arts. And this is what their life became. And you're like, oh, I get that. I can understand that.
Resonates with me.
And all of a sudden I connect because I understand that about you. And now you're like, I see my place. And all of a sudden I've expressed a vision. I've connected to you. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, Blue, this is what I need you to do because only you can do it. Then comes influence. That's the process. It's that 3 steps. Having a clear vision, starting with that, being willing to connect, then that leads to influence. If there's a breakdown in there, it's because of the relationship.
Okay, so let's hit on the relationship, right? Because a lot of leaders would love that. They love that 3-step process. However, implementing it is harder than it is to say it. So what are leaders, especially like in our Pacific Northwest region, that they're actually missing out on? What are they not able to do effectively that maybe you have a secret sauce to do so?
I'm going to answer that in 2 ways.
Okay.
The first problem is everyone's trying to do everything but their job.
Okay.
And when I say that as a leader, as someone who is, their job is to, it's not production. It is the vision. It is, again, leadership. Too often they're doing production things. It said they're too busy working in their business to work on their business.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter. I was doing a workshop yesterday with a bunch of dairy farmers. And this guy in Ohio was like, man, that'd be great, but I have to do all these other things. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem with all businesses is I get away from doing what only I can do to do everything. And an analogy that hit me afterwards is kind of, your kids aren't there yet. My kids are. If you drive your kids around a lot right now, right? You take them everywhere. Say all of a sudden they turn 16, they have a driver's license, but you continue to drive them everywhere. How much strain is that going to put on your time? A lot. Not saying it's not value a relationship. Don't get me wrong. But if they turn 16 and they get a license and you've driven with them and you've encouraged them and you help them through the process, how much more are you going to be able to get done in a day if they're driving themselves? A lot.
And I'm going to add to that in the fact that it's like, because you've spent that time with them, because you have driven them, because you've listened to them in the backseat with their friends, you trust them enough that you can let go of that helicopter feeling and like let them spread their wings because you've spent so much time. You've put that due diligence, you've put in that time and effort of getting there.
Yeah. And leaders need to do the same. They need to let their people drive the car. They need to encourage them to say, hey, take the keys. It's time to go. And if we don't, then we're not doing the things that are important. Okay, so that's one. That's the symptom. That's what's actually going on.
Okay.
If we talk about the process of vision and connecting and influence, coming back to the beginning is what I wrote my book about. It's the things we hide. And the things we hide are holding us inside and we're trying to protect ourselves that I'm not sure that you'll accept my vision. So I'm going to hide it. I don't know how to connect with you because I don't know what value I have. It's the things we hide, that our fears and insecurities that create this barrier between us and others. So if it creates a barrier between me and you, I can't possibly express a vision that's going to connect to you because I have this, it's kind of like I'm an imposter. Right? I'm not comfortable and sure in who I am. So how can I make sure that I can deliver value to you?
So
and go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, like, how do they even recognize that they're doing that? Because as a CEO, as an executive, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, the only person I'm listening to really is myself at that point. So who is that outside influence who can, I know mentorship is very important to you, and it is for me, and it's changed my life. But what would you say that they're missing? Like, who speaks to them when they think they know it all, or their way is the only way, their way is the right way?
It's usually a symptom of it's a result of it.
Okay.
Meaning I'm doing this all on my own. no one will go with me. I'm finding myself where it's all on me. I have to do everything. People don't want to work as hard as I do.
Yeah.
It is the symptoms that people see, not like they recognize that everyone is backing away from them, or they end up very alone. It's kind of something that I believe the only time you end up alone on an island is when you put yourself there. Like if people say, oh man, I feel alone on an island, right? Well, you marooned yourself there. You took your boat, you paddled it to that island all by yourself. That's not a function of society. And it's often because we're blind to the reality. We're blind to how our fears and insecurities show up and create this barrier between us and others. It's what I call walls, the walls of intensity. Like I'm super intense, right? And that's just a natural bent, but it's also a crutch. It's a barrier that I use to prove my worth and prove my value. Instead of saying, oh, no, why do I wear black shirts? Because my pits sweat. Great. Now I don't have to worry about it. I can own it. It's like, oh, that's cool. Great. Good for you.
I intentionally did not wear black because I knew you would.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Because you had mentioned that. I was like, I know Tyler's going to wear black.
I'm going to wear black. Here's the other thing. I mean, it's very much the Steve Jobs, kind of like, 100%. I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing today. I'm just going to wear a black shirt. So if it's going to clash with your background.
But you're better than the Gap, Tyler.
Well, you just kind of got to play around and just do the work so you fit, right? I mean,
sure.
So
intensity.
Coming back to this, that's one wall for me. The other one is inactivity. Meaning, I don't want to have that hard conversation. You don't have the hard conversation with someone, they all of a sudden know that there's a barrier there. Like if you and I are, say, working together and all of a sudden we need to talk about something and I'm like, I'll just avoid Blue. Maybe he'll just figure it out. There's a sense of tension like, hey, you go to Brendan, it's like, do you notice Tyler's being a little weird? He comes in, he's like just a little off, a little different. Because my insecurity is showing, it's like, I don't know how to have this conversation. People feel it. Another one is isolation, meaning I'm just not going to show up. Like I will go hide in my office. You won't even know I'm here. I'll just avoid it. And that happens a lot of times when leaders are like, it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. I'll just go hide.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
Hide from the bills or whatever.
It's different than inactivity. Inactivity is I know I need to do it. I don't want to do it. Isolation is I'm just blind to it. I just completely forget about the bills, the receivables, the regulations, dude.
Taxes.
All of it.
Got it.
And then the last one is insensitivity. Just where it's kind of being an a-hole. Meaning, I don't care about your problems. Just do it. Right? If you're talking about this barrier and how it shows up, if I come to you and say, Blue, I don't care that your daughter has something going. I don't care what you're doing with your son. Get it done anyways. And you're like, oh, man, it's a birthday. It's my wife's anniversary. I don't care. It's that insensitivity that creates such a barrier for people. And why do they feel like they need to do that? Often leaders feel like they need to do that so they aren't walked all over. Hey, I need to be so forceful with you that I don't have to take it on myself and then I feel like taken advantage of. So these are all how it shows up, but it's rarely
AKA
ever.
The symptoms.
Yeah, it's rarely ever. It's like, oh man, I understand why it's not working.
Sure.
And oftentimes for me, and this happened through my journey, all this stuff I had to work through. I had to figure out.
Well, I like that you. Well, let's pause for a second because I like that you say like it's just not one day all of a sudden it's written in a book and everything is solved for you.
Yeah,
right.
No.
It's like the journey is you realizing that you are avoiding the bills. You are avoiding that hard conversation about having money with somebody that you owe or they owe you money.
Yeah.
You are having that issue of hiring people and bringing on the right talent and having those hard conversations or expressing your vision or your culture.
Yeah.
So it is a long process of a journey, but it's like when you're going through that journey and you start to see, let's call them red flags or green lights, whatever you want, pros and cons.
Yeah.
Like, what are you telling people? Like, is it through self-reflection? Is it through your system of the four walls?
Yeah.
And because you bring that up in your book, like, what would you say, like, this is a quicker way instead of a long journey full of lots of challenges and bumps? What would you say?
I think the biggest start for me was just accepting and realizing I have fears and insecurities. I mean, my biggest insecurity is, do I have value? And that started when I was super young. That started before ever any of the tragic parts of my life. It's am I viewed as athletic enough, right? Am I smart enough? Am I likable? Whatever that may be, that starts at a very young age for all people. And it kind of starts to continue to manifest over our lifetime.
Or compound.
totally manifest. Yes, compound over a lifetime. And that's what I've realized. Done a fair amount of research. That's a human thing.
Yeah,
There's
you're not
no
alone.
one exempt.
You are not alone.
No one.
No.
Like you have insecurities. I have insecurities. Your insecurities show up in ways. Mine show up in ways. That's human. That's existed as long as people have lived.
And I love, okay, let's pause because that's so important for people to hear because my problems, my insecurities, they might not even be yours. No. Right? Like let's talk about your amazing hair, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So you might have an insecurity about your hair. I would never worry about that, right? But I could worry about not having enough money.
Sure.
And it's totally two different lives, but it doesn't mean that they're not less valuable to either 100%. One of us. And how we hold that and go through life with those things is detrimental sometimes.
It is. And what's interesting is when somebody triggers and touches or hits an insecurity, you know it because you see how people respond. You know, they'll isolate, right? My son did this the other day. We're having a conversation. He got upset with me and he just checks out, puts this in AirPods.
Ugh.
Right?
And what did you do? What did you do?
Yeah, it's isolation. It's the, I need to do it and never do it. Yeah. Right? It's the inactivity.
But what did you do? What did you do? As a parent, I want to know.
Dude, I'm not good at it. And it's one of those, all right, I have to let this, I wasn't good at it in the moment. I kind of challenged him, my intensity. It's like, then I had to realize, nope, I need to let this go. I reached out to my wife and I said, hey, this is what's going on. Oh yeah, I recognize this too. It's like, all right, we just need to be aware and how can we have healthy conversations that say, hey, it's okay. I know you're going through stuff right now. So you reacted to a moment that was potentially embarrassing to me, feeling like it was embarrassing to you. And you start to understand that, you know, again, whether it's value, whether it's what people think of you, it's, am I good enough? I found that a lot of insecurities center around that. Now, it may show up as to your hair. Well, all right, my hair is really important. Well, why is it? Because I'm afraid of what people think about me. And I'm not knocking
on Tyler's hair, but we have had that conversation. It's like, and you're right. It's these triggers that hit home, and it's like you just don't know what somebody's going through, but you can read it on somebody else.
Once you are understanding that people have fears and insecurities, you'll see it everywhere. And you'll experience it. And that's a chance for empathy. But
there you go. Okay, I was going to hit that.
Back to, you know, the fears and insecurities, here's where when you start to clue it in, the awareness piece.
Awareness.
Now, I view it as driving down the road. Okay. Right? If you and I drive, you know, down the road, especially here coming into springtime, we're going to have days where there's bugs, right? There's bugs. And all of a sudden our windshields start to get little bugs, right? Build up and build up. And as much as you take the windshield wiper, sometimes that cleans it. It's not, you got to go to the car wash and actually wash it. That's no different than in relationships. You're driving down there, you're going to have bug splats. It's going to have missteps. It's going to have, misconfusions. Well, if you allow that to go and go and go, all of a sudden in that relationship, that windshield is completely covered with bugs. I don't even want to talk to Blue because we're so far from being on a place that we can have a conversation that now all of a sudden I'm oblivious to what's going on. So
even if you're looking around the corner.
Totally. Right. Yep. And then all of a sudden we start getting into practice. Like you can't see through your windshield. So you stick your head outside or you start to use your mirrors. It's like, man, I don't know what Blue's problem is. I'm just trying to help him. I'm looking in the mirror saying my intentions were to help. And you're sitting across the table and you're like, Tyler, you're not. Right. But I'm looking in the window. I can't see because there's a barrier in our relationship where I've just turned that off. And now I'm looking in the mirror. Right. And this happened to me. Where, man, in my professional business, I used to be a nutritionist for dairy cows, right? I'm working with clients and, man, I'm delivering. I'm doing the right, like the results. These are things that we came in, I was hired to do. I'm just nailing it. Well, the problem is I thought that was my job. My job was really to work with the owner and his accountant to balance their finances because they thought that was my role. I'm like, I'm taking care of the cows. I didn't realize, oh, no, that's a part of it. But, man, I have to be attuned to their financial, I guess, opinions, right?
Sure.
I just didn't know that. And so I'm driving down the road. I'm thinking everything is good. All of a sudden in our relationship, the windshield is clogged.
Is that lack of communication? Is that you not asking the right questions? Is that you not meeting them where they are?
Yeah.
What is it?
It was a result there of not understanding what I was doing in the role.
Okay, but being naive, right?
Being naive and just thinking my worth and value is in how good of a diet I could put together for cows. I did not realize that my worth and value was how good that I understood the relationship. Any business, the result doesn't matter. In sales business, your result doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If your product's good enough, it's good enough.
It'll sell itself.
Everything is on the relationship. Everything. And so that's where it just young and naive. And I thought, man, I'm going to put together the best architectural plan. But they're like, if the builder doesn't want to work with you because you're a jerk, you could have the best plans in the world. You could win awards for it. Your plan's not going to work. I want to work with someone I enjoy working with that has a relationship with me, that connects with me, that values me. And I don't feel like this is always tense. Like there's always something there.
Well, and people want to do business with people they trust and they have that relationship with.
Yeah.
So how did you, as a young kid, learn that lesson? And how did you apply the hard way?
My windshield shattered. My mirror shattered. Because my windshield in that relationship, losing that client. So I shared the story. I lost that client, which represented about 25% of my business, my own business at that point. So it was pretty much 100% of my profit the day before Thanksgiving. And so now all of a sudden I am like, oh man, I've just like, and it was during 07, 08. So financial times were tough. Dairy industry was tough. Things were tough. And it's like, I started to question, can I even do this job? Do I have any value worth? Like, what am I doing? And, so it was a window shattering moment, that relationship. And I was still oblivious. Like, I didn't understand why this broke down. I thought people were trying to sabotage me.
Okay. So that's my question is, did you assign blame?
In that case, yeah. I mean, I felt like someone was out to get me because I had performed based upon what I thought were the metrics. And all of a sudden, that relationship, the windshield shattered. And then, I start looking in the mirror like, man, I'm good at that. And then all of a sudden I start to question that. And so I call it a mirror shattering moment because I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh man, I'm doing great. But the window was completely broken, shattered because it was covered in bugs that I didn't understand the relationship with my client. What was most important to him? I just didn't have the experience or the knowledge to understand, hey, who were all the players at the table? I thought I come in, I do my job, we're great. And it was more of a after the fact reflecting back and is, oh, that's what I missed. And, so this idea of what did I do when I would get challenged? I'd just push harder. I'd work harder. I'd do more. I'd be more intense.
Sure.
And that didn't help the relationship because they're like, I don't need you to be more intense. I need you to see what I see.
And listen to me. Right.
Absolutely. And so again, from that experience, led me on a journey of like, oh, I don't know, bouncing around, kind of a couple different opportunities, ultimately leaving the industry of dairy nutrition in total, getting involved in, we owned a gym, network marketing. And so, have some success and think, I got this figured out. And then there's another moment, you asked me this kind of earlier, is when did I understand intensity was a deal, right? And I share this story in the book about reflecting back when intensity started to become the wall I put up. And that's when my brother died when I was 14 and how I responded. That was very intense. And people that knew me before and after said, oh yeah, your intensity just went up another notch.
And that was obviously to hide or shade it or get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It became I'll just put my head down and push. Right? If it's not working, I'll just force myself. I'll put my head down and push, become more intense.
So for people who don't know you and have not heard your story, can you explain how old you were when that traumatic experience happened and what happened?
Yeah. So I was 14, again, on the farm in Ohio. And during the summertime, early summer, and part of our routine was we would bale a lot of hay to feed our young stock. And so my job on that Saturday was to get all the equipment ready. And in the process of doing that, I was trying to back a wagon into a building, a shop where the air compressor, grease guns, all those things were. And being young and dumb, I was trying to back it up a little bit of a hill in the gravel. Wasn't working. So I decided, okay, I'm going to loop around and try it from where it was flat. So that's smart. And as I started to change my direction, drive forward, I look over to my left and I see my younger brother, Joel, playing in the grass.
How old is he?
He was 3. And I see him, I wave to him, I proceed to drive around. And as I got around the bend, around the corner, almost full circle, I looked down on the driveway and there he laid. I'd driven over him and instantly died. And, so I was 14, he was 3. And where the image of me really latching hold of intensity is what happened next. So I run to the house, call 911, emergency personnel shows up at some point, and I'm being questioned by the sheriff. And he's right in front of the barn where our cows were. He's sitting on the hood of his car, and I'm standing in front of him. I was a little guy. I was, maybe 5'7", 125, 130 pounds, not an imposing figure by any means. And he's asking me questions, and he's grilling me. And all I remember saying, it was an accident. It was an accident. It was an accident. It was an accident. And he's continuing to kind of question whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It was an accident. And I finally get to the point, and I vividly remember this. And I say to him, hey, I'm done. I'm done answering your questions. I'm done. So I'm going to go in that barn, and I'm going to milk those cows because they're not going to do it on their own. And if you want to come with me, great. If not, we're done. And I say it so forcefully like that because that's how I remember expressing that as a 14-year-old boy with that intensity and that push and that drive. So I go in the barn. And honestly, I don't remember anything after that. And it as that memory came back to me when, again, we were having some employee issues with our gym. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to put my head down and push. You either get with me or get gone. Like, you're going to follow the rules to the insensitive, the intensity. These are the rules. You broke the rules. You didn't get with it. So you either change and get with the rules or we'll find someone new. And I sit in the gym, just got done working out. I'm mixing my protein shake and I'm starting to drink it. And I'm a person of faith. And so I fully believe it was God telling me. And what I heard was, this is how you deal with things. So when you come back to the question is, how do people realize this is happening? There are clues. There are clues in other relationships. You see these things. Just why is it so difficult? Why are these relationships so hard? And to me, what I realize is like, oh, yeah, my intensity is not helping me here. Because that's what I've used to survive. But all of a sudden, that intensity is the exact problem. And it was some time later, this reflection and growth and everything else, realizing, oh, well, that's one of them I use. That's the one I lean against the most, the wall I lean against the most. But there's times where it's like, I don't want to go visit that client because I don't know what he's going to ask me to do that I can't do. So I'll wait till next week, right? Maybe it'll be easier next week in activity. Or, you lash out, the accountant is like, why is it so expensive? I'm not the problem. It's somebody else. They're buying all the ingredients. I just make it work with it. It's kind of like contractors, like, why is this house so expensive? The sub's like, I'm just doing the work. You bought all the products, right? What am I supposed to do? And that was kind of my role. Or, it's this, I'll leave. I'll no longer be in this industry. I'll go find a new job. You don't, it's hard to work with you. I quit. I'm gone. Right. That isolation part of it. And I realized that, that was the house that I built around me.
Your
to
walls.
Protect me. Yeah.
But that did not happen the day after you lost your brother.
No.
Like, that took years and years, and you brought up just quickly.
25.
You quickly brushed on the gym ownership and dealing with an employee. But it's like, that took time and effort. What else did you do along the way to find that? Did you have help? Did you go to counseling? Like, that is a traumatic moment in your life.
I think that was one of the things that I was, I would say, blessed with. And I say blessed because I don't know any other way to put it. And some people, like, I don't want to say bristle at this, but it is what it is. There's never been one moment in almost 32 years now, never one moment of guilt. And so kind of some of those things working through, I didn't have guilt about my brother dying. I just don't. It was an accident, right? I hold on to that. But what I did realize is how I dealt with other people around me, how they were dealing with it. I'm fine, just put my head down and push. Right. And so kind of it wasn't necessarily did I go through a lot of counseling to, all right, start to examine these things. It was more of me being reflective enough to say, what is it that I can't see? And the relationships around me and being this, man, it's just not working. What is it? And being curious enough to learn and grow and say, okay, how can I get better? And that started me on a journey of, again, probably now 10 years ago of, man, I want to get better. I want to learn. I want to grow and have a learner mentality strength. And so started reading a lot of personal development books. I had never been before that. Right. And, a lot of Maxwell books, leadership books. John Gordon was another big one. The being positive and kind of that idea.
We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
Because it's about you finding a mentor and surrounding yourself around people who are great thought leaders and you have surrounded yourself around John C. Maxwell, about Will Guidara, and it's like these people that are in your life that, how did you make those kinds of relationships? How did you find mentors that were great thought leaders, not just somebody who was a high achiever, but like super exceptional? How did you make those relationships? And what would you say for people looking and listening to your story? Like, how do I meet people like that who can really lift me up?
There's two things there. Man, I never sought out to do it. Other than, you mentioned, John, how did that come about? I was looking for a mentor and kind of searched for a while and reached out to a few people and I knew I wanted to grow as a person, as a leader. And there was a program that the John Maxwell Company provided. And so my wife and I signed up for it. That's how the relationship started. And it just got in the room. And then what I learned through this process is it wasn't what I had to bring to the room. It's how I could serve others through a room and just be a place there. And that was something that I learned very much from John that changed my life and I saw this over a few years being around him. People that walked into the room to prove their value and worth, they usually didn't last long. The people that came into the room that are like, hey, what can I get from this? And can I connect and serve other people? They transformed and grew. And it was in that period that I realized that. And so when you bring up a guy like Will, when you bring up Roy Vaden earlier, it was a matter of how can I serve you? What can I do to connect? There's a point of connection. You mentioned Will, for example. He and I were both at Cornell University at the same time. Did not know each other, maybe past a bar, this or that or other. But when I read the book and I learned that about him and I knew that connection, I reached out to him and was like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. I got so much value from your book. Can I have you on my podcast? He said, yeah, we let my team listen to your podcast. We love it. It's great. Well, then I had another connection, John Rulin, who grew up in Ohio the same I did, a friend that connected us. And we hit it off because we both grew up roughly the same area, had a lot of mutual friends, but did not know each other ever. Actually, never met each other in person. But then that connection led to, referred me to Roy Vaden, and just kind of this connection point of how can I serve or how can I benefit others? Not what I can get for me, but how can I serve others? And it's just that willingness to be curious, to engage and say, hey, how can I connect you with someone else that's going to serve you? And I'm going to stop.
Please. It makes you, it fills your bucket.
Oh, yeah. I love doing it.
It completely makes me happy when I help someone and I create a relationship with somebody else, and then all of a sudden it's like they help each other.
Yeah.
And it's like you see these tributaries start to grow and you're like, oh my gosh, I take pleasure in helping somebody else. And because you never know when you're going to meet somebody that you can help or that they might be able to help you as well.
And that was such a mindset shift for me. Because when I understood that I enjoyed getting to know people and curious in meeting people and how I could add value to them had nothing to do with what I skilled, but what I could help them serve others. And again, it's very fulfilling. It's like, that's not hard, but that took a major shift. Like you and I can walk into any event tonight, right?
Sure.
And we can walk in and we can say hi to people. And there's the difference between the people that we walk up to that say, hey, Blue, can I get on your podcast? Man, I want to get on your podcast, whatever else. And you're like, I don't know. As opposed to, hey, Blue, I'd love to have you on my podcast. How can we have a conversation? How can I add value to you? All of a sudden, that's a completely different relationship. A good friend of mine, Brad Lomenick, who's been a big part in some of those connections. He has an entire 3-minute perspective on this. And it kind of boils down to connectors are givers, networkers are takers. It's like, I never want to be considered a networker. No way, no
Sure.
how, because it just makes you feel,
Repeat that again.
Yeah.
Because I think that is important. And you do mention that in your book as well. So repeat that.
Connectors are servers, networkers are takers. And it's kind of like, hey, how can I connect you? And it's kind of this idea, be a catalyst. You don't need to have any part of me. If there's a part of me in it, great. But if you and somebody else go do something great, spectacular. And, I had another good friend that shared this with me. He goes, it's kind of it's about ideas, but it ties into this. So often people are afraid to give something away because they're trying to hold on it so tight. Think about the Lord of the Rings. The ring, it's so precious, right? That precious ring. But if you release it, then you get so much more, right? It becomes
Dave Ramsey has a very similar thing about the money, engagement, and emotion. But continue.
And so this comes from Rob Dean Hoskins is his name. He said, people get ideas for 3 reasons: 1 to use on their own, 1 to give, or 1 to partner. So every idea doesn't mean you have to hold it yourself and like, I'm going to make this. Like, no, sometimes it's, hey, Blue, I had this idea. Maybe it's for you. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness, Tyler, that's amazing. Or, oh, I don't know, but let me give it to Brennan because that's probably perfect. Awesome. Great. Something happens from it. Spectacular. If you think of ideas in that way, you're going to continue to have ideas. But if you hold on to ideas and I have to make this precious and this is just the only idea I'll ever get, it's kind of the, abundance compared to scarcity mindset, but it comes to relationships too.
I love that.
And if you can add value to people,
I'm not going to look at everybody like Gollum, but continue with relationships.
It's I think from a business perspective, we talk about how do these show up in business and relationships. And here's another indicator. If relationships around you consistently burn out, that's a you problem. If you feel burnout, others are burnout, and I call it the incinerator and the incubator. I'd much rather be an incubator than an incinerator. I'd much rather someone work for me, learn and grow, and then decide after a year they want to go do their own thing. I want them to leave with a great experience that I helped them. I gave them something to go do that. Rather than them work for me, hate it, miserable, go leave because I just burn them out.
Well, and I think that taps into, and you bring up Will and Unreasonable Hospitality because he is friends with the Canlis brothers in Seattle. Yeah. And it's like their main mission with Canlis Restaurant is teaching people, their employees, like, this isn't the end. We want you to gain a skill. And if you go on and do other things and start a restaurant that's even better than this, congratulations. Yep. We just took pleasure in helping you take your wings off. And that's so valuable.
Well, here's from a leadership perspective, when you do that, then it's multiplication. Then all of a sudden you became, I talked about this earlier today in one of my communities, the difference between success is what have I accomplished? Now there could be other pieces and parts of that. Significance is what have I helped others accomplish? And when you change from success, there's a lot of different definitions of success. You can go back to Earl Nightingale, the worthy pursuit of an ideal, right? But if we think about today's world, success being accomplishment, a monetary, something like that, as opposed to
significance.
I'd rather have significance where I make an impact in people. And that shift in my life happened, again, in this period, probably now 6-7 years ago, where I was looking to grow and I was like, man, this has got to be different. And it's why the name of my business became what it was, an impact-driven leader. I don't want to be a success-driven leader. I don't want to be a driven leader about me. I want to be able to make an impact. I want to be able to, when people leave, whatever relationship, if that's working together, that they can say, man, he helped me accomplish more than I ever thought I could. And if I can do that, man, exciting.
Well, and you've done it for more than one person. You do it for a room. You do it for a team. You do it for organizations, associations. And there's nothing wrong with, because what I'm hearing you also say is that success and significance are 2 different things. Yeah. And whatever your love language is. Yeah. Some people are driven for success only. Yeah. And it's not that they're greedy. It's not that they're like self driven on themselves or they're selfish. It's just like that's their mentality.
That's their benchmark.
That is their benchmark. And significance can be somebody else's benchmark, let's call it. But if you get a taste of the difference between success versus significance, that is what, as a speaker, when you change rooms and you change behaviors and transformation, that is what you're talking about. Well, and I love that.
I'd even throw that's the difference between an individual performer and a leader. You know, individual performance, there's a lot of success driven on that. I mean, that's not all bad, right? But then if you want to serve and lead, like I see so many organizations, my brother's in this situation, where his expectation as a manager of his company is he still has to do individual performance sales, but he leads a sales team. Like, it'll never work. You can't possibly. Because if you're focused on your individual sales, then you're not set up to help everyone else do their collective sales. Like, you can't be financially rewarded on your own personal sales because you're never going to serve and lead everyone else at the capacity of being a leader. It just doesn't work like that. Now, you can have productive things you need to do. But if you're fighting over, like, if you and I are both, if I'm your leader, but you and I are both doing the same job, competing at each other, it doesn't work.
It's not synergistic at all.
Absolutely not collaborative.
So that goes back also to the point where you had mentioned that you find your lane, what you're good at, work on the business, not in the business. And it's like, you don't have to take your kids to school all the time. It's like, do the things that are more productive for you to get things done. Productive, not busy work, right? Yeah. But then also that taps into something else that you brought up in your book, and that is about how Navy SEALs train.
Yeah.
Okay? And how teamwork is really the end.
Yeah.
Can you kind of dive into that for a second of how you learn that from some of the commanders?
Well, it's funny having podcasts and, again, being connected to just random reaching out people, have this relationship building of how can I add value, and got to know several SEAL team leaders. And it was funny. I was talking to them one day. I was like, hey, who survives? Who survives, buds? Like, because we see the pictures and the surf and everything. And my buddy's like, oh, that's easy. And it was kind of that's kind of his personality. It's like, oh, the person that doesn't try to do it on their own. And it's funny because there's a lot of, I would say, they've become popular, public figure SEALs. And the ones that
becoming personalities.
Yeah, the ones who really serve their team, that's not them. It's not them at all. But I've also learned that's a big part of the training. Like, you can go through that SEAL certification and you can go through it and say you survive that period and still never make it on a team. You never got to be a professional SEAL because they're like, no, you're all about you. The only way to actually be a valuable SEAL is to understand I can't do this on my own. As my friend told me, the way to survive training is link arms with the person beside you. Meaning, and it was descriptively told by another one of his close friends. It's like, they told a story about being in Afghanistan. And they were on this ridge. They were waiting for an exfiltration from a helicopter. But because of the different things that were going on, it was going to be a 12-hour wait. So they kind of dug in, they got themselves kind of camouflaged, but they knew the enemy was around them. They could come at any point. And all of a sudden, my buddy tells me a story. Well, the example of this empathy, as I call it, understanding that you're there to serve others. It's not about you. He hears over the microphone, their bone mic said, hey, Cap, do you need anything? And it was one of his junior, people of the group, the platoon, saying, hey, do you need water? Do you need ammo? Do you need anything like that? That wasn't him asking. That was other people asking him. They weren't worried about their own survival, making sure they had enough water, they had enough ammunition. They understood the only way for one person to survive is if everyone was able to survive. And in that example of there's a collective, I bring a skill set, but man, my skill set is only valuable if it's expressed within the team.
Yes.
Me being a solopreneur, all about me, it's just going to be a lonely life. It comes back to that island on its own. Whereas, hey, the only way you can do this is if you have a great guest, you have great production, you have great, people that are broadcasting, whatever else. It's not all on you because it's not possible. Even if it was a one-man show,
or it's
you're
not
doing
possible to scale correctly.
Well, even if it's just a one-man show, you're doing everything. It's going to limit the ability for you to make an impact. Because if you try to do everything, you're trying to be all the tools in the tool belt, all the jack of the trades, you're going to be limited on how well you can do all those things. Because you can't do them all world class.
How do you tell someone to slow down and to bring on the right people? What do you tell a leader?
Yeah, it's funny. I've shared this with several people, and it's hilarious because intense people, driven people, when I say this, and it's so funny because oftentimes they're like, oh, for me, I had to learn how to be lazy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And when I say that, it's all of a sudden like this register. I had on my podcast Matt Doherty. Matt Doherty was the head basketball coach at University of North Carolina, took over kind of right after Dean Smith and then before Roy Williams. And I told him that one day, and he's like, oh, that hits me hard. Because it's learning to go at the pace of others. It's putting your arm around them and walking with them. It is
Like
going at the pace to catch the baton, to grab the baton. It's from the outset, that empathy. That's what it means. Because you can go far you can go fast by yourself. But if you want to go far, you have to go with others. And it's stuff that I had to learn because I was going fast as I could. And it's either keep up or you're dead to me. And realizing that's really lonely. It's really, really lonely. Instead of, hey, just slow down. Slow down and go with others. And when people hear that at first, they'll think, well, I don't want to go that slow. I didn't say you had to go slow forever. Slow down to go with others. And all of a sudden, you could be running a 2:15 marathon, which is, elite world class, right? You could be running that fast if you're all going together, maximize yourself. But hey, sometimes you may have to slow down to a walk. Where you're going 3 miles an hour. Okay. But then you pick it up over time and you go with each other and develop that over time.
Well, you have to sometimes regress in order to progress.
Absolutely. As they say, in order to shoot the arrow forward, you got to pull it back.
I love that. That's a great analogy. And mine always was with a keyboard. Like when you're learning to type, you're using your peck method, right, with your two fingers. But then in typing, they say use all 10 digits. And you're like, oh, and you have to slow down. Yeah. But now I was able to write a book, and so were you. Which brings me to my next part. Tell me about your book, okay? So your book is impactful, and you really hit on a lot of the points that you were just discussing, and you really dive deep into that. But then it also digs deeper into your trauma that you went through and how you overcame that and who helped you and what you found success in. And so how can people find out more about your book and when can it be, when can they find it? Because it's releasing very soon.
Yeah. So release date, May 12th. You see it right there. The Things We Hide. You can go to thethingswehidebook.com where you can find all the different single orders. You can go to also my website, tylerdickerhoof.com, and there's a link to the book stuff there. One of the things that you had asked, why now? Right. And one of the things that is kind of through this journey, I've shared about my walls and my intensity, and part of the title, The Things We Hide, is if you and I are in this podcast room 10 years ago, I probably don't bring it up. Not that that I felt like I was hiding it. I just didn't think it was important.
Sure.
And part of my growth and part of my journey in understanding the impact of that event, but how it could signify for others. But then also I realized this. So my brother was 3, right, when he died. And I had this moment, again, these vision moments, and I'm at a stop sign bringing my son home from soccer. And I have this moment, your brother's life has purpose. Sitting here writing this book, telling the story gives purpose to my brother's life. How I had to work through it, the things that it showed me, it gave my brother's life purpose. And I think that's why I'm impactful. So why now? It's like, well, I've had to do the work. I've had to refine the work. I've had to say, yeah, this works. It works for others. But it's also the point in my life where whether it's an impact, whether it's a legacy, my kids are getting older. And what I've focused on the last handful of years of being a present father, being there for them, being a part of their life, but also understanding, hey, they're getting older. I want them to be able to read this. I want them to learn about their uncle. I want them to learn about what I had to go through because they're going through it too. And also understanding that, man, if I really want to make an impact in people, if I want to be able to be on those stages to share this story, to share about my brother, well, then I need to have that conduit where people can grasp a hold of like, oh, yeah, this is real. And so that's why now. And it's been more of a work in progress over the last 6 or 7 years. It's not something I all of a sudden came up with last fall and put down. It's like, I've been working at this for years, and it's the process that I had to go through to understand, I was hiding things, whether people understood that or not.
Well, and everybody is hiding something, and that is something that you can take away from the book, and it dives deep into to uncover some of those things. And also, like, if you are hiding those things, this is how you work through them, and
Yeah.
you're not alone. Like
Totally.
you're not the only person who's dealt with death. You're not
Yeah.
the only person who's dealt with losing a job
Yeah.
or not making the SEAL team. It's like
Yeah.
there's so much trauma in everybody's life that
Yeah.
we do hide behind, and
Yeah.
you really dive deep into it. And I will also mention that I told you that like I'm a huge movie guy,
Yeah.
and I do love movies. And my wife and I watched this movie Coda the other day.
Okay.
And it was a tearjerker. Like I was, whoa, it got me. Like I was like, whoa, it
Yeah.
really hit home with me emotionally.
Yeah.
And when I first cracked your book open, I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of those moments. Like it is a very impactful story, and you come full circle throughout the story, and it just hit home. And I love the words that you put into the book, and I think you bring a lot of value, and you do dive deep. And I look forward and tell everybody that it is a book to read, and it's up
thank
there
you.
with John C. Maxwell and
Oh,
with
man.
Will. So thank you very much for being a guest today and
Thank
being a
you.
friend. And
Yeah.
when you introduced yourself in person, because
Yeah.
we had met online, you're like, hey, I want to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because you were
Yeah.
not the taker, you were
Yeah.
the giver. And I've just appreciated our relationship, and it's grown.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see the direction you go and to continue building this relationship.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for these conversations in developing this. I mean, we've probably known of each other for years. And again, that chance meeting at a hockey game. And,
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. And I think that's also an opportunity of it's being willing to put yourself out rather than what can I get for myself. And that's a lesson I've had to learn. Be honest, that if you go back 25 years, people maybe kind of, but there was also like, there's something. And again, it was that hiding of like, oh, I'm trying to constantly prove my worth as opposed to just show up and serve. And that is the solution.
Show up and serve. And you had mentioned one more thing really quick.
Yeah.
Is the light. With
Yeah.
the candle lighting.
Yeah.
Like, please explain that.
Yeah, so there's a story. Quite honestly, you bring it up, and it's funny. Like I don't remember exactly the moment where that hit. Kind of analogies, right? That it's impactful, but it's like, oh, it is. And the story goes is a candle doesn't lose its light when it lights another. When I go and serve you, me doesn't diminish. The reality is we just made more light in the room. And that's kind of, I tell this story about a candlelight service at church is like you pass around kind of traditional and like you light someone else's candle. By the end of the period, the whole room is lit up with candlelight. And I believe when we get past the things we hide, when we're willing to accept and own that, that means that our candlelight is able to light others as opposed to I'm afraid I'm hiding my light because I don't want to give it away and lose it. No, the reality is give it away because you're going to light someone else's candle and then there's going to be more light.
And that is something to go through life with.
Yeah.
Because when you see it, and I don't care what age you are, the sooner you can learn that,
Oh.
the more, let's call it successful and significant that you can become because you are making that impact on a larger scale.
As you're sitting there saying that, I'm thinking about it. When you can embrace that, every relationship around you will be better.
Oh, I love
Every
that.
relationship.
Well, and I love our relationship. So thank you so much for being on
pleasure.
this,
Thanks
Tyler.
for having me.
All right, stud. Thanks. If this episode brings you value or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.